everyone, today I'm going to talk all about how I applied unconditional self-acceptance, how I still work on applying unconditional self-acceptance, where I learned about it, how long it took me to really kind of embody it, especially a lot better than the beginning where you just end up forcing it and it becomes this, am I doing it right? Am I not doing it right? It's something that we all have to go through. And then everything else in between. So before I go any further, please subscribe, hit that like button, comment down below. If you're interested in our coaching or webinar services, please email info@ocdrecovery.com. We'll get back to you in a timely fashion and can review a bunch of different things with you. So there is a reading list at OCD Recovery, which most people know. You can find it at ocdrecovery.com underneath the resource tab. And specifically book number 3, which is called The Myth of SelfEsteem by Dr. Albert Ellis. So what happened was, in 1955, Albert Ellis was pretty much using REBT pretty mainstream at that time. But before that, he was a sex and marriage counselor, and then he was a psychoanalyst. Or he practiced Freud's method and Jung's method, which is analysis. And he realized that it wasn't really producing the results that he thought that he wanted to get with his patients. And then he realized that activating events in one's life and the way they're conditioned is only a piece of why people behave, act, and respond in the way that they do, and then the emotions that they feel. He realized that there was a belief present, and those beliefs are usually conditional self, conditional other, and conditional life acceptance. And that looks like, if I fail, I'm a total failure, so writing yourself off fully. If someone makes a mistake, they're a total loser, and I can never accept them. Conditional other acceptance. Conditional life acceptance is deservingness and fairness. My life should be easy. Things should go my way. I've had too many things go wrong in my life. There's no way it should be anything else that goes wrong, etc., etc. But inside of that spectrum of conditional acceptance, there is what we call unconditional self-acceptance. Now, unconditional self-acceptance without practicing it is not a innately cultural, biological tendency in a belief system that most people are moving with. Most people move with conditional self-acceptance, which is the same thing as self-esteem. This is why the book is called The Myth of SelfEsteem. And what that means is, I always eat some sort of like walnuts before I come on here. I just eat pecans. That's so funny. And what that means is that the person, they operate off the belief system that if they make a mistake or they don't look a certain way, that they're failures or they'll never be able to accept themselves. So what they do is, it's something you see a lot, especially in like the weightlifting world or the business world or any type of high-end achievements, is people will move and move and move towards these things thinking that if they achieve a goal, that it's going to fulfill this belief that, they're these amazing people. But it just doesn't work like that. What happens is with conditional self-acceptance, it's like a bucket that has a hole in the bottom, and you're constantly trying to pour water in there, but it's never actually filling up. It's an illusion of filling up, and that is basically what self-esteem is. Because if you look at what self-esteem is at face value, it's if I accomplish X, I will have Y. If I become in better shape, I'll be happier. If I become more monetarily successful and rich, then I will be happier. If I have the perfect spouse, I will be happier. If I get a job promotion, if I get a bigger house, if I have a better car. And the reason why unconditional self-acceptance is difficult for people to grasp, especially in the beginning, in my opinion, I can't see how anyone can become very unconditional in self-acceptance without years of practice and ups and downs and confusion and mistakes, because it's so unnatural to the way that humans think. And the reason why, in my opinion, no one ever talks about this and there's no way to prove it, this is just purely theory, is that conditional self-acceptance, aka self-esteem, is easier. It gives you a false sense of control that doesn't exist. So you think in your mind that if you work towards a goal and you feel a certain way, that is the desired outcome you want. But actually, it's really not, because if that is threatened, if your belief of your conditioning is threatened, you spiral and crash. This is why athletes who lose their positions in the sport can get really depressed and anxiety, and bad things can happen. We see it, not just athletes, business owners that go bankrupt. I'm not saying that you will feel nothing. That's a mistake too. A lot of people think with stoicism, they think that, if I have unconditional self-acceptance, I won't feel anything. You can always tell when someone actually understands unconditional self-acceptance, which most people do not. I can count besides all the people I work with and people with OCD recovery, and maybe some Stoic philosophy, basically nobody. And they've had to practice it for long periods of time. So people will say, hey, well, it's a lack of emotion. I heard a New York Times bestseller say Stoicism isn't good because you're a robot. That's just a misunderstanding of Stoicism. When someone practices Stoicism and they get to the other side of it, or rational thinking, they start to realize that, oh, this is a much better option. Because with unconditional self-acceptance, I can set myself a plethora of goals. Coaching goals, business goals, relationship goals, hiking goals, exercise goals. And I can realize that those goals are not a piece of who I am. They're not me. It's just a characteristic trait that I like at this period of my life. Because the human being is a complex, ever-changing process. It's not something that can be quantified in a sentence. It's like a complex evolutionary computer. You can't just say, you can, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So what you like today does not define you as your personality traits, because that could change in a month. It's just something you like to do today. I like hiking. If I lost my legs tomorrow in the car accident, I might not like hiking anymore because I have to have robotic legs. It might be harder and I might not like hiking. That can change. So it's an ever-changing complex process. We know this because the brain is plastic, okay? It's malleable. Not in the sense from a structural standpoint. Well, it is structural, just not in the structural sense that most people believe. We're talking about synapses and neurons and connections in the brain and pathways. We're not talking about changing the actual shape of the brain structure in that sense. But it's really important to realize that, because you could set those goals, not achieve those goals, and still adapt and swing around and achieve new goals. So how long did it take me to practice unconditional self-acceptance? Well, I'm still practicing it now, and I've been working on it for 3 years. Coming up on 3 years. It's a process, right? I'm 98% better. Could I improve more? Sure. There's always room for improvement, but I'm very content on where I am. That doesn't mean I'm not trying to make more progress in my life, because then that would become a stagnant, and I don't want to do that for myself. There's nothing wrong with being stagnant and having no goals. I just like having goals and like working towards things. But it took me a while. It took me a long time. The first year I really didn't even kind of get it, because I didn't take it really seriously for the first 6 months. And now I'm like, okay, like what does this mean? How do I go about this? Chapter 4 in the book, it's something we talk about called Psychotherapy and the Value of a Human, which breaks down the opening paragraph. I've read it so many times in webinars. Says most people's estimation and value of their own personal worth comes from wanting to prove themselves to other people. And that is why people are perpetually on the hamster wheel. The hamster wheel is spinning and you're reaching for things, happiness, emotions. First of all, you can't really catch emotions. Just be happy. You hear stuff like that. But that doesn't work like that. The way it works is we are humans that are very complex, that most of us will never be able to truly understand. Even the smartest neurologists on earth really know that it's an ever-changing complex, and we're learning new things every single day. What we know today about neurology and the brain and belief systems, it's always changing. So you have a person, and they have a set of beliefs. They have self-beliefs, other beliefs, and life beliefs, and there's lots of overlap. Then there are behaviors. For OCD sufferers, these are compulsive behaviors and avoidance behaviors. Same type of deal, hiding from discomfort, shame, guilt, etc., etc. And then we have emotional consequences. So we have depression, anxiety, chronic shame, chronic guilt. And chronic shame and chronic guilt are always perpetuated by conditional self, other, and life acceptance. Primarily self, and then secondary life, and then third really other in that realm. Usually shame and guilt are coming from some sort of, especially guilt. And shame and guilt are very similar in the way they present themselves, and especially the feeling sensation, heaviness, loss of connection. But they're coming from a place of not wanting to accept yourself. So people are like, I could never accept myself if I did that. Well, we know that's not true, because people have done that and have accepted themselves, even the most horrendous of crimes. And that's where we want to start. So that's how long it really took me. I learned from the books on the reading list. And it was an up and down process. Now I work with people all over the world, different cultures, different backgrounds. And I see how everyone thinks they're different, but it really still comes down to, I must prove myself to be happy. I must have people not reject me, friends and family members, the fear of being a monster, harm OCD, POCD, all that stuff. Societal rejection, cheating OCD, retroactive jealousy OCD, all these type of things to happen. Sensory motor OCD, GAD, panic disorder, that's more conditional life acceptance. Conditional self-acceptance are a lot of fears of, like I say, harm, POCD, cheating OCD, false memory, real event OCD, and those type of regards. So remember, it's important to realize you can always tell when you practice it who really kind of gets it. And the people who really get it, you can tell in the way they speak, in their tone, and the way how they explain things. And, you know, it's not my job to force anyone. I've tried this. I promise you, it is not good when you try to really force other people to become more unconditional self-acceptance, because you can provide information and teach, but all that can really happen is they can learn and apply to themselves. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is a really important topic. Someone wanted me to do this. I forgot the name of the person on the YouTube channel. I made this video for you guys about unconditional self-acceptance. But I can dive into many more pieces. I'll end it with this. Where did I have to apply it to myself? Bodybuilding, eating problems, a lot of compulsive behaviors, a lot of avoiding, a lot of trying to get my body to look a certain way. And just that was really the main things that were keeping me latched with that. I really didn't have a fear of making a mistake in that regard. Mine was all acceptance of the way I looked in the body image sensation. Excuse me. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you have any questions, comment down below. And as always, info@ocdrecovery.com. We can get back to you with your coaching needs. We have lots of webinars coming up, 8:30 p.m. every single Tuesday. Sometimes we have like an ROCD part 1 and 2 or a harm OCD part 1 and 2. We put that on a Tuesday and a Friday, but they're always on Tuesdays. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, have a great day.